Gentlemen No Class is proud to be a part of the HC Universal Network. Gentlemen No Class is produced, mixed, and edited by M5 Studios. Hey everybody, before we get started on tonight's episode, I just wanted to give everybody a reminder to head over to 941 West 18th Street. That is Eureka Heights Brewing Company over there in the Heights in Houston. The tap room is now open, limited hours, weekends only, Friday through Sunday, to a limited capacity. So you can't fill the place up, but you still can go in the tap room and hang out and have some great beers, some fresh beers right off tap. Speaking of fresh beers right off the tap, this week they are releasing Lavender Bunny, which is that Buckle Bunny, which is infused with the lavender and pea flower. And a portion of sales of that will be donated back to the Montrose Center in association with Pride Month. So everybody get over there to Eureka Heights. The drive-thru is still open. You can go over there, pick up your cases, your 12 packs, whatever you want to get, or you can go over there and hang out, small crowd, social distancing, hang out in the tap room, and, you know, maybe you'll see one of us over there. We're going to go hang out and see if we can grab some free beers and stuff. So stick around. We got a great episode lined up for you guys tonight. We're going to make fun of some Scientology folks.
This podcast contains explicit language and is intended for adult audiences. The views and opinions of Gentlemen No Class are strictly for comedic purposes and should not be taken literally. For instance, like this disclaimer. Now grab yourself a pint and enjoy.
Welcome to another episode of Gentlemen No Class, the podcast where when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. I'm Rob.
This is Eddie.
Paul.
Brian.
And like it or not, ladies and gentlemen, we are the hosts for tonight's podcast. Jake is out doing... I saw on Facebook he was raping his new guitar amp at his house while his wife was trying to talk. Like, his wife was like pouring her guts out about how bad school is or something, and he's like shredding on his guitar amp like a fucking asshole. So, anyway, he got a new guitar amp. He hasn't had an actual guitar amp in a long time, if I remember correctly.
I understand why he's home.
So
I'm not complaining. I'm here. So.
Yeah, that opened up a chair.
Yeah.
Two chairs.
Joining us on tonight's podcast, anybody who listens to the show or has been to any of our events will recognize Eddie. Eddie was one of our contestants in our Eureka Heights Double Dares challenge.
Not my finest moment, but yes. I was the guy who threw the cards at the watermelon.
That was
the
fucking greatest. That was one of the highlights of that entire day.
I watched that video yesterday, actually. Yeah.
That was a bullshit event, and that is impossible.
I tried all those events before we did them, and they were not that hard.
There's no way you can get a freaking card into a watermelon.
I got
when
5
you tried
cards
them, were you
stick.
sober?
Ooh, sounds like a challenge after the podcast.
You got a watermelon?
I'll find one.
Yeah, prove it.
Also joining us on the podcast, one of my best friends, actually probably my best friend. This is Brian. He is the owner-operator of KDTX Woodworks. He's building our new podcast table for us.
It looks beautiful, too.
He's built other shit for me over the years. But Brian and I have been friends as long as Landrum and I have been friends. The three of us all kind of grew up, went through high school together and everything. So, anyway, Brian, welcome to the show.
Appreciate you having me.
Yep. Been trying to find a good reason to get Brian on, so we decided to come up with a pretty controversial topic for tonight. So
I can't wait.
I don't know how this is going to play out, but I'm hoping that it catches some traction other than like our normal listening audience.
I hope. Well, not only that, I hope they get threatened by them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I hope it catches
maybe
some
we
traction.
can get us
That would tell you, Rob, that we got attention.
That's right. That's
we
what I'm
got
saying.
their attention.
We
made it.
If they issue some kind of cease and desist, I'm going to post it everywhere.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to email them a link to their lawyer directly.
Thank you, Brian.
Like,
because I'm
guys,
too lazy.
Yeah.
You're gonna jump us. I see. So you're gonna.
I'm sure they're on Instagram when you post the link.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
go ahead and
they're
tag
on there.
them.
They gotta be.
We're gonna tag them.
They're very protected.
When I promo this
I'm gonna
episode,
go
I'm gonna
crazy.
tag them.
Yeah.
I just want their poster boy to show up at my house and be like,
"Who's their poster boy?"
Mission Impossible style.
Oh, Tom Cruise.
Yep. There
and by the way, we are discussing Scientology. If you haven't noticed by now,
is weirdly, oddly bald and just awkward. I think maybe you would want him to show up.
I wanted to dress up like as Jules or Vincent Vega.
Yeah, I was going to say
Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction Travolta.
No. I want him dressed up Battlefield Earth style.
Yeah.
One of his finest moments.
I figured you more for Saturday Night Fever, John Travolta.
I've never seen Saturday Night Fever, but Grease is one of my favorite movies.
There you go.
Yeah. Grease is the word.
Make Eddie spit his beer all over my studio.
That's why you epoxied the floors in here.
That's right.
That was
You
good.
knew that was happening.
Comedic timing genius. Right?
So, a couple of bits of current events. You know, we're in week 196 of the COVID lockdown. Apparently, is the lockdown over?
I guess so.
With everything
Fuck
else that's going
social
on,
distancing.
Yeah, I mean, with everything
which
else
is
going on in
kind
the
of
world.
good. Like, I don't care for that shit. Like, let's just all take a risk and get back to work.
Well, I mean, that's the
society.
Paul's Swedish, so there you go.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a tough call to say.
I think it's calculated risk. You know, Rob and I both have really, sensitive people in our lives that it's like, okay, let's protect them. Let's take precautions for them, and then at the same time, we need to get the economy moving. We need to get out in public and get Texas moving again. But when you have my goddaughter and my dad with stage 4, you got to be careful for them because it could take them out in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
That's why we try to keep we get together and hang out, but I think we do it in such a small social circle. And we kind of know where everybody's been, and we take as much precautions as we can. We stay away from each other.
You don't know where I've been, Rob. You don't know where I've been.
No,
that's why you're not getting near me.
We dumpster dived before we came over here.
Nobody Fight Club, nothing.
So I missed that one. Sorry,
but that's the thing I was thinking about the other day. Is like which way, like either like how are we gonna live with what we can, what's gonna happen, how much suffer we're gonna have to endure, because either way, if we do something, people are gonna die and suffer for it, and if we don't do anything, people are still gonna die and suffer. So it's kind of like picking the best, like you said, the balance of the situation. Like how, like okay, we go down this route. How many deaths is it? Could we predict or analyze or just project possibly, and then versus this avenue and so on. So. The way I look at it, it's like something's got to be done, because either way, like I said, we're suffering one way or another.
Pull the Band-Aid off and everybody go back and see what happens.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. Is honestly,
we just got to come to a decision.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows it's a calculated risk at this point in time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even though the economy's open, if you're still at high risk, stay the fuck at home.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's a lot of ways to get people food.
People should definitely be protected and taking extra
and they are. They're still,
and especially if you live with somebody and you do work, just take the extra measures just for them.
And a lot of people are like, well, people are being forced to go back to work, and they're well, they can't force you to go back to work. Number one, I mean, the governor has his order still says, like, if you're high risk, like you don't have to go back. You can still stay on unemployment or whatever. Like that's part of the deal. But like everybody else, like they want to get things rolling again. Like this is really like crippling people's lives.
And going back to somebody like taking an extra precaution. If you live with somebody that that's frail, that could potentially get it easily, and if you do go back to work and take those extra precautions. And one thing, like Joe Rogan says a lot too, they don't talk about the media, is about building your own immune system on your own by exercising, getting vitamin D, and I forgot what other vitamins. It's just having a better zinc. Zinc is good. Just to build that immune system so you can protect yourself, and then therefore you won't carry, at least the way I figure, and that's non-existent in the media. I haven't heard anybody but Joe saying that. It makes a lot of sense. Just for personal responsibility, that's one thing we can all do for the sake of controlling this, is build your immune system. Do your best to the things I was saying. So.
I mean, I agree with you, but the one thing I'm going to say that, again, and the media doesn't show it, but I've seen this firsthand, is the gyms are reopened, and I went four times this week, and it's packed. I mean, it's 25 to 50% capacity now, but you can tell, and they're doing it by appointment only, but people are waiting in line, getting checked with their temperature and everything before they let them in. And I've done it 4 times this week. People are out there. I mean, I'm working out, sweating my ass off with a damn mask on. It's ridiculous, but you take your precautions. It's a calculated risk, just like you said.
Yeah. At least, I mean, that's also good too, because people, it's a sad time for a lot of people. But I often think I knew before this started, it's tough to be suicidal or a drug addict or an alcoholic during this time, and people are cut off from meetings and just they're not especially people that have a job. That's their life. That's what saves them. That's what's helping them, especially if they keep them sober. Yeah. Yes, having that routine. Yep. You take that away from somebody, and it ruins it for you, and people get easily depressed, and a lot of people, suicides are pretty high at this moment. I've talked to people who worked at hospitals. They're telling me that there's been a lot of suicides or attempts, and it's pretty sad. But that's just a fraction of the population. Everybody else is suffering in other ways. But I often think about that. I feel bad for people that are, and they fucking, I mean, Christ, they considered liquor stores an essential,
but they were,
they were
because
right.
they people are alcohol dependent. It's kind of fucked up, but
they
deem them essential and then shut down the AA meetings.
Yes, exactly.
It's kind of
that's fucked up. It's you're enabling them now.
Some people depend on a liquor store the way some people depend on
exactly
on
AA. Yes, that's not good. That's fucked up.
I never thought about that.
That is so wrong. It's completely enabling them, and I feel bad.
So,
on that bright note,
couple of things going on. Yeah. I know we don't really talk about sports because none of us know really anything about sports, but
hey, I love
what sports is going on?
Well, that's what I was just about to say. Didn't they just announce that something like the NBA season is going to resume?
July 31st, the NBA comes back. They're playing in Disney with no crowd. They're going to run. They're going to run the playoffs, and Houston's in it. So I do love sports.
So are they going to run? I heard that they're going to run through November, and then the regular season starts again in January.
Well, yeah. So the 2020 season, which should have been over in come June or July. Yeah, June right now. We should be in the dang playoffs and almost finals by now. So they're going to restart it July 31st. They're going to take the 16 teams that had the best record, just like normal playoffs, and they're going to start the playoffs. So the NBA playoffs usually take a couple months because it's, four different series, best of 7. So you're looking at least a month or two. So if they're starting in July 31st, it'll probably be over by mid-September, and they're going to take another month or 2 break and then restart the season, the 2021 season, in what? I think it's late December, early January of 2021. But at least they're coming back, and baseball apparently also is going to be coming back soon too.
Yeah, I heard baseball they were starting spring training soonish.
Yeah, well, the thing that saves baseball, that's a lot different from most other sports, is their collective bargaining agreement. A lot of people don't realize this, and this is why the NFL is probably going to start on time, is because baseball players have so much more negotiation power with their collective bargaining agreement and their union. They have so much more strength. All of their contracts are guaranteed. The NFL is nothing like that, so they're kind of at the will of the owners. So baseball is taking a lot longer to come back because the baseball players have a lot more power and are asking for a lot more guarantees when it comes to the precautions and everything like that.
Gotcha.
So that's why baseball is taking longer. Basketball is coming back, again, mostly because of the contract issues. Whereas, and again, I mean, I'm all for it because I love football. But if football comes back in August and September, don't be surprised because the owners have all the power.
Yeah. I'd be surprised if we get to go to any of those games.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, which pisses me off because I was so ready to go to a Las Vegas Raiders game.
How come they?
Although it's Las Vegas, so they'll probably still have fans.
So why wouldn't they? I mean, so why couldn't we go to games now then? I mean, like, what's the whole point of like not having games if you just have them with no audiences?
Well, because remember, a lot of the money the sports teams make is TV deals.
Yeah, sponsorship.
Yeah, I mean
but I mean, if everybody's at home watching it on TV, wouldn't you think they make more money that way?
No, because
ticket sales.
Yeah, ticket sales, food sales.
Sales.
That's a whole nother industry, and they're making tons of money off that. But the reason they're willing to bring it back with no crowds is because they're still going to get their TV money.
Wow.
A little bit of money is better than no money.
Can you imagine, though, like, without an audience, do you think that affects their play?
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah.
Have you seen wrestling?
I mean,
they said
I heard
Joe Rogan called fights with no audience. He said it was crazy. You can hear the impact.
Oh, yeah.
Of the hits and stuff. He was like, it's the weirdest thing. Calling fights, like, the different things, and you hear it's like you're way more in there with it.
Well, and watching wrestling now on TV, whether it's WWE, EAW, whatever, AEW, sorry, it's harder. And nobody knows. I mean, I've been first time on the show, but I'm an ex-pro wrestler, and a lot of the stuff that goes on in the ring, you're communicating with one another. But it's covered by the crowd noise.
Yeah.
Now, if you watch WWE and turn your volume up, you will see and hear, more importantly, some stuff that they don't want you to hear.
Giving away the secrets.
Oh, yeah. It's super, like, I'm not going to lie, like, when I was watching it the other day, I was like, you better turn the volume down on their mic or something.
I mean, what an interesting time to be alive, man. Like, 4 months ago, this wasn't like this, and now, like, you're just simply talking about, like, the fucking a wrestling match with nobody there, and you can hear them discussing pretty much their play. And just these
play calling and shit.
Yeah, it's just these new experiences. It's like it's real. Like
at that level, because they're on TV. Because don't get me wrong, as an independent wrestler, I've ran plenty of shows with like 5-10 people in the crowd. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Hey, you gotta go through.
You gotta do it, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I still get paid. Sucks for the promoter.
So on tonight's podcast, we're going to be discussing Scientology. This is one of the things
L. Ron Hubbard.
Paul really wanted to talk about Scientology, and I struggled with a way to like really like flow this podcast without it becoming like a ridiculous like make fun of it fest. But you know what? Like, fuck them.
Yeah,
I'm kind of at that point. So I think the way that we'll run this is we'll kind of give the most ridiculous backstory of what's going on, and then we'll kind of get into a little bit of the founding of Scientology, what it's all about, and then like we'll talk about like the people that mostly have come out and become outspoken against Scientology, and kind of the more fucked up stuff that's happened in the more recent years since since L. Ron Hubbard has passed. So if anybody doesn't know, well, I'm just going to assume that nobody knows anything about Scientology for listening to this podcast, which I feel like with the age of the internet now, like everybody should probably know that Scientology is super fucked up. So
to an extent, yeah, so we can dive into that.
I was going to say, because I mean, I'm glad you guys are taking that role, because I mean, I'm not a Scientologist, but
so first
I'll be the resident Scientologist.
No.
You want that role? You're gonna play the resident?
No.
You're gonna be an
expert tonight.
I mean,
it cost me $4 million to get that title. That's what I'm saying.
Well, one of the reasons my friend Paul over here, when he called me to do this podcast, he's like, "Hey, do you know anything about Scientology?"
You were 5th on his list, by the way.
No, whatever.
You said the loud part.
But to my own defense, I actually have a minor in religious studies. So I actually have studied a lot of religions, and Scientology is one of them.
Weird flex, bro. But
it is a weird flex. But the reason I do that flex is because
I like it, though.
No. Because my point on this, and we'll get into it, I'm sure, is philosophically speaking, like when it comes to Scientology, they're not as crazy as pop culture likes them to think. Now, I'm just going to say that once.
One on the podcast.
I'm not.
We needed that guy.
Farthest from. I guarantee you that.
Okay, so let's get into it like this then. we'll start
Are you
off
a Scientologist?
We'll start into
as I wear the big gold chain on my neck with the cross on it.
I assume that you're a Christian then.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so what is your doctrine of faith in Christianity?
I was raised as a Hispanic man. I was raised Catholic, as most Hispanics are. Went through my communion, my confirmation.
What do you believe in as a Catholic? What is your?
Well, I was getting to that. I am no longer a Catholic.
Okay. Well, just as a Christian in general, what would you be like? If somebody asked you who had no idea what religion was, and they said, "What are you?" and you say, "I'm a Christian," and they say, "What does that mean?"
Okay. Well, I would definitely say that I am. I don't get bogged down in the denominations. I am a Jesus-centered Christian. So I focus mostly on the New Testament and the actual teachings of Jesus Christ. I do believe in the Holy Trinity. I believe in the death, resurrection of Jesus. I believe that Jesus is our Savior. But at the same time, I do not. I will say I'm a liberal Christian in the sense that I have studied Christianity historically, and I know where a lot of the Christian dogma and canonization comes from. I understand that man is a flawed thing, and that a lot of times people do messed up stuff, and that includes the people that were ruling at the time that the Bible was created, or at the time that even if you know anything about the Bible, you know that Jesus' teachings are the four books, the Gospels. After that, everything is basically written by secondhand sources, whether it's Paul writing his letters, who definitely had his religious experience with Jesus, but it was way after Jesus had died. I mean, the people that wrote firsthand acknowledgments of Jesus' teachings that were there, that's the Gospels. So I focus mostly on that. I'm not going to say that I do believe that the Bible is a holy book. I don't go as far as a lot of Christians will go and say that every word in the Bible is from the breath of God and it's got to be held up to the same standards as it was then as it is now. I don't believe that. My main thing is I focus on Jesus' two main teachings: love your neighbor and love your God. And I think if you do those two things, you'll be fine.
Okay. So that took you about 3 minutes.
Sorry.
That's fine. I mean, and it wasn't really like
interesting, though.
That's fine.
Well,
that's kind of what I was going.
Background.
You were Christianity.
That's fine. That was perfect.
2,000 years in 3 minutes, people.
If you ask somebody, what are you? Oh, well, I'm a Jew. Well, what does that mean? Like, this is what I believe. I believe, in the Torah and God of the old, and they can give you a breakdown of what their faith is. Muslims can do the same thing. The problem with Scientologists is if you ask somebody who's a Scientologist, when you started being a Christian, how long did it take you to realize the basics of Christianity? This is Jesus, this is God, this is the Holy Trinity. Like, that's like day one shit, right?
It's true.
Scientologists don't learn what they actually believe in. They have to be in the church for 4 years, and spend $400,000.
I thought it was $2. Okay, it's
no,
$4.
$400,000. Wow. I did some research on this.
Yeah,
before they reach the level that they are told what it is that they actually believe in.
Yeah.
So I will break down just so that everybody knows. I'm going to break down what the basic Scientology belief system. All
right, here we go.
Okay,
this is going to be good.
I'm going to chime in though if there's something.
Yeah,
okay,
that's fine.
I'm going to make fun of shit too.
Now, that's fine. Go, please do. Now, I want everybody to remember that this was written or disseminated by L. Ron Hubbard, who is the founder of Scientology, who still to this day holds the Guinness Book of World Records for the most amount of fiction written by a person.
Over 1,000.
Over 1,000 published works.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
He wrote 1,000 works of fiction, but this is true.
During the Depression, he went. That's when he started.
Just this one.
Yeah. During the Great Depression, he got started and just went fucking just nuts. It was like a penny a word.
Yeah.
They would Pulp Fiction. He would write, and he would just fucking.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. Yeah. Go on.
Scientology, it basically centers around their god Xenu, who was the dictator of the Galactic Confederacy, who brought billions of his people to Earth, our planet Earth. Back then it was known as Tigak. And he brought them here in DC-8 light spacecraft 75 million years ago. And their planet, where they came from, was much like the Earth of the 1950s, to the extent that L. Ron Hubbard said you probably couldn't distinguish between the Earth of the 1950s and the planet that he brought these people from.
So they were racist. No.
So,
hell yeah, baby.
So Xenu brings these people in. He says that they look like DC-8, big bomber carrier craft of the 1950s or whatever, because that's as far as his imagination could get. So
they look like just regular fucking planes.
Right. So he brings them here and stacked them around all the volcanoes of Earth and then killed them all with hydrogen bombs. Very specifically hydrogen bombs, okay? Now, official Scientology scriptures hold that the Thetans, which are the immortal spirits of those people, they adhere to humans, causing them spiritual harm. So humans evolved on Earth separate from all this, and these Thetans attach to people and cause you harm. They cause you bad memories, make you relive bad past life experiences that they went through.
Did y'all see the latest Rick and Morty episode where the face aliens? It sounds just like that.
No.
Where the face aliens stick on them.
Just going to point in here, there's a little bit of a discrepancy with the Thetan thing, but we'll get to it. Continue.
So, basically in the Scientology, they believe that all people are immortal spirits. All living beings are immortal spirits. So your body is just a body, is just a host. And when you die, like, you become a Thetan, and you want to become the best possible version of that so that you can latch onto somebody else when they are born. And then you can relive. It's kind of like a combination of like some weird Buddhist like reincarnation shit with some. Like,
that's actually Hinduism.
Whatever. Thank you for the correction.
I'm glad somebody's smart.
Yeah, I understand though.
Buddhists believe the same thing, but we'll get to that.
Okay, that's fine. So now imagine being in a church. So imagine, like, take that piece of information. Okay, let's take that piece of information and put it in our back pocket for now. All right, let's take that. We'll put it in our pocket. We'll revisit that in a little bit. Let's talk about the man who created this, or what he says was disseminated to him. We'll talk about the man who is L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard. He found the way the Church of Scientology started was by a published works by L. Ron Hubbard called Dianetics and the Modern Science of Mental Health, which is, if you read it, which it's not copyrighted anymore because it's been past 75 years or however long it is. It's very much a combination of modern psychology and just basic like habit forming. All the aspects of it have all of the same aspects of, like, it's basically like repetition over and over and over again. It's like training a dog. Yeah,
discipline. I heard it's like good for self-help. Like, it's actually really good.
Very true.
It's very beneficial.
The basics of Scientology, like the Dianetics itself, apparently can be helpful if you take it just at face value.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you jumped on that.
Yeah, they addressed that to where it was like that was turned in. He took that and was like, okay, how do I make money with this? Let's turn it into religion.
Yeah, so basically,
fucking tax evasion, son of a bitch.
I mean,
fucking bastard.
So, I mean, the biggest thing with the Dianetics is, and the way that it works, it's basically 1/3 of a lie detector test. They use what's called an E-meter.
Yep.
And the person being
they get audited.
Hold on, describe the E-meter. What
so
is
the
E-meter
one? I wish we were live streaming. It's two metal.
Put in your hands.
It's two metal cans.
Soup cans.
They look like soup cans.
Yeah.
And
it's got some leads on there.
Yeah,
where do I put my feet? Where do I put my feet?
Do you have to wear shoes?
I feel like my
get
feet
it, Charlie.
So the basic purpose of an auditing session is that you have an auditor and somebody being audited, and you talk about things that are it would be like, Paul, what's bothering you? And as you talk about things, you think about things, and as you think about things, the needle would register whether that is good or bad. When the needle bumps to whatever the bad thing is, they would stop you and say, well, let's keep talking about that.
Yeah.
And so they keep talking about that, and the basics is like once you get past that, you've relieved yourself of that burden, which is basically what therapy is, like psychotherapy. You're unleadening yourself with these burdens.
Yeah, exactly.
But then the weird part gets into, and the part that's very open to like the powers of suggestion and things like that, is they'll start asking you random questions, and then like, how do you feel about the color blue? Well, okay, the color blue's okay. And they'll watch the needle. When the needle bumps to something bad, they'll be like, okay, stop. What was that thought that you just had? I don't know. I was thinking about Coke cans or something. Okay, well, why are you thinking about Coke cans? Like, do you like Coke? Well, I don't know, not really. You know? And that's how they get in. They start getting into all these weird things. Very open to the power of suggestion. And these are supposed to be, they're trying to find and audit out all of these thetans that have latched onto you.
Yeah.
And you're filtering out their bad experiences through your auditing. And you're trying to get to the point where you have gone clear. You are clear. You are unburdened of all of these things. Okay? Now, in theory, in practice, like on paper, that sounds awesome. I mean, it sounds pretty good. Except the fact that you have to pay for every single one. You have to pay for the auditing sessions. Every single one of them. Okay? So, you're doing these auditing sessions. Now, mind you, it takes you 4 years of auditing sessions and $400,000 before you get the whole Xenu story. You don't know any of that at this time, when you first start doing the auditing. Okay, so Dianetics is basically a hodgepodge mixture of stuff that L. Ron Hubbard took right out of psychology books a lot of times. Yep. And a lot of like, misunderstood technology at the time, and kind of pieced it all together and turned it into Dianetics. And he wanted to, he claimed that the practice of Dianetics, cured his blindness, and all these other things.
Scientologist.
Yeah, you should be a Scientologist. You should try that.
I know. Visually impaired for the listeners, by the way.
Meaning he can't see. He looks great.
I didn't know he cured blindness.
Oh, my finger. How many fingers am I holding?
What fingers?
So, L. Ron Hubbard served as an officer in the Navy during World War II. He briefly commanded 2 ships, but was removed from command both times. The last few months of his active service were spent in a hospital, being treated for a variety of complaints. He claimed that he had 2 Purple Hearts and a Silver Star, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
His Navy records are public document. I mean, you can pull his entire Navy file. Never was in combat. Never got a Purple Heart.
Yeah.
He had his number of lists of complaints, but they were never verified. So when he started Dianetics, one of the first things that he did was he was getting a lot of scrutiny about people. It was, you got to remember, it was back in the 70s. You know what I mean? It's in the 60s and 70s. It was all about like that
Peace,
Age
of
Aquarius and like self-help bullshit, and chakras and, like pressure points and, like healing crystals and
Bikram yoga.
Yeah. I mean, it was all kinds of stuff like that. So, I mean, he was selling something that people really wanted to buy, but he was batshit crazy and nobody called him on his bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you don't call people on their bullshit.
Yeah. Let it ride, baby.
Okay.
So, I mean, let's talk about what we know so far of the man, L. Ron Hubbard. So, I mean, we've all seen like most of these documentaries and listened to some of these testimonies. Just knowing what you know of the man himself, what do you think about his claims of science that of what Scientology can and cannot do.
Okay. So if I can jump in here.
Go ahead.
So I have a couple things I want to point real quick. I'm not going to go on too long of a diatribe, but what I will say is, and this is just my personal opinion, I am not a Scientologist by any means, but in my opinion, what I think happened, and I'll be 100% here, I think you guys are hitting on a lot of truth here. I do think L. Ron Hubbard was, for lack of a better term, full of shit. So by that, what I mean is, I think he was basically stealing a lot of already well-established ideas, and he packaged them in this weird sci-fi kind of origin story. So that whole Xenu, all that stuff, like, don't get me wrong, freaking nuts, okay? Insane. But the point you put, when you pulled out like the Dianetics, it really is, if you actually read that book and you read some of their actual beliefs, it is almost mirroring, like you said, psychology at the time. So they have this belief of what they call the analytical brain and the reactive brain.
Reactive mind, yeah.
Yeah. All that is the conscious and the subconscious.
Yeah.
Literally verbatim, everything he talks about. Now, the Thetans, what I wanted to point out about the Thetans were, so yes, they do believe in this crazy backstory of all this weird stuff. But in the end, what a Thetan really is, and I just want to point this one thing real quick. So what I equate it to, just because I have my own, my belief system. So I look at it from what I know. So L. Ron Hubbard is kind of like, yeah, he was the originator. And he's what, and I mean this with no disrespect, and I hope no one gets offended by this.
But, they will. It's okay.
But to me,
the whole point.
To me, he's kind of Old Testament. This is what I mean by that. So he kind of created it, and there's some wacky shit in there. All right, and don't get me wrong, I am a Christian, but I'm the first one that can say, if you read the Bible for what it is, and you look at the, God created Earth in 7 days and all that stuff, and the ark, he had every freaking animal in there, and it was only 300 cubits, which a cubit is 1.5 feet, so it's about a boat the size of a football field, yet it held every animal. We're not going to get into all that, but my point is there's some wacky stuff in there, and if you take it literally, then yes, there's going to be some crazy stuff. But at the same time, the package of what he's actually promoting is basically self-help. And the one thing, it is a religion, but they don't base anything off faith. There isn't like and this is one thing that I think is interesting about Scientology, is it's not based on a idea that you have to have blind faith. So if you ask a Christian, you ask a Muslim, you ask a Jew, you ask anybody who has that kind of religious belief, well, how do you explain it? It's at the end, it's always going to boil down to, well, that's just what I believe and I have faith. And that's fine. That doesn't diminish your religious belief. That's just what it is. With Scientology, what I found interesting is, besides the Xenu story and all that craziness, it's really just based off self-help. And what you can see now, and this is what I wanted to get into the Old Testament, New Testament kind of thing, is the new guy, David Miscavige. Yeah. You can see that he's kind of repackaging Scientology now. He's kind of moving away from some of that Hubbard just wackiness. His only TV appearance, which I really, if anybody's interested in this, check it out. It's a 1992, I think, Nightline with Ted Koppel.
I think it's 91, but yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And he does this whole thing with Ted Koppel, and Ted Koppel straight calls him out. And he's like, so when you go clear, you can't get a cold? Because that's what Hubbard said. He goes, you can't get a cold. And he's like, and you can tell, it's just like he's almost embarrassed by the question. And he's just like, well, I don't know what the hell that guy was talking about. I mean, you can probably still get a cold. But my point is, if you look at the actual teachings of, besides, again, the Xenu craziness, the Dianetics, the dynamics, what they call the 8 things you're supposed to do, it's super similar to a lot of religions. So the whole, the immortal soul. So basically what they're saying is, and this is where I disagreed with you on your synopsis a little bit, is basically, yes, those, what are they called again? I'm blanking. Thetans. Thank you. Too much Eureka Heights. But Thetans, so basically what those are is, yes, those are immortal spirits that have now not just attached to our bodies, but we are the Thetans. Like the Thetans
makes up your body.
Yeah, the Thetans is basically like a Christian Judeo concept of a soul. And that David dude, he'll straight up say that. We created that word because we didn't want it to get mixed up with the soul or the spirit that was already a concept that was created. That word was just made up to incorporate their idea of what they believe an immortal soul is, which again is not a foreign concept to a lot of religions. So their whole idea, and this is where the Hinduism/Buddhism stuff comes in, is because yes, they do believe it is immortal. So it will be technically, and I'm just using this Hindu word because it's something we all understand, you get reincarnated. So your Thetan will continue to survive after your body has been shed away.
Can I disagree with you for 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I mean, in listening to different things about Scientology, I would disagree that they do have faith, but because until they discover what you're talking about, the Thetans and all that, that's not until one of the higher levels.
Yeah.
You don't even.
Well, no.
So that's my Remini,
that's my
she
point.
Talks about like she believes Scientology, the church. She believes everyone else is lost, and she is the one helping and making the world better. And without them, it's like you are lost if you're not Scientology. I feel like that's more faith.
Well.
You believe if it's not Scientology, you're
basically all that is her saying I have the right way and you're wrong.
Yeah,
and that's it.
But that takes a lot of faith in what you're doing.
It does.
To believe
no. Faith in what you're doing. Yes.
If you don't have what I have, you're damned.
I guess when I said faith, I meant the concept of blind faith. The whole idea of I can't explain it, but I know it. That idea.
But I disagree with you on that also, because they don't find out about the concept of Thetans or anything like that until they are 4 years in.
Exactly. And that's that. I'm glad you brought that up because that's my point. Because my point is at the beginning, and this is how you do it. I mean, and again, let me just point out, I think that these people aren't stupid. I don't. I think they have created a system that they know will basically bring people in. So think about it. You're a normal Joe on the street. Am I going to tell you that psycho story you told me right at the beginning? Hell no. Because you're going to laugh at me and you're going to think I'm nuts and walk away.
Yeah, it's hard to, well, it's part of, like for me, at least the money wise, they don't tell you that because you get the money and you're hooked for so long.
And well, that's the whole thing is like why does anybody know why churches are tax exempt?
That is a good
supposed
question.
To provide a service to the community.
There you go. That's why the bill. The federal mandated law that was passed that gave churches tax exemption was because the churches argued that they take tithes and offerings from their parishioners and they give out a service to the community that the government does not have to provide.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And most churches, I would say, let's give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and I would say most churches, over 50%, that's most. Okay?
What about that Joel Osteen? I'm playing.
I said most.
That was a Houston joke. Sorry.
So I would say that most churches at least try to do that.
No, I agree.
Most churches are outwardly facing, they want to do something.
They're
in the community.
so they're not supposed to be taking money in and spending it on profits. It's supposed to be even like reinvested in the community.
Right.
Yeah.
So they
well, according to the Scientologists, so they do that.
Well,
that's why I say watch that 91, 92 with the Capo, because he's like, I'm again,
and that's the whole thing.
I'm just throwing this out here because this is what I know as what I've,
right.
David, and I hate his last name. I'm sorry,
Miscavige.
Yeah, but he pronounces it weird. That's what pisses me off. Miscavige.
I've heard
Miscavige. But anyway, so he in that 90 video, he literally says, "We do more than any other church,"
and that's the whole thing. Like Leah Remini says the same thing.
We give all our money.
They go every day.
Well, that's the whole thing is that they talk about in the Leah Remini talks about in her show, and she talks about, she was on the Joe Rogan podcast. David Miscavige's dad was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he talked about like what they do in the church, and he's like, it's all bullshit. They say that they give all. He's like, they are not interested in giving anything back to the community. No. They take all of that money and they invest in properties and lawyers, and they sue people for the Church of Scientology, and they are constantly paying to protect themselves from the outside world.
Yeah.
That's what they do with that money. And they are taking in millions of dollars. And the thing is that most of these people that pay for these audits and donate to the churches, they're people like you and me, but they have some celebrities that will drop, a couple $1 million here and there. We'll follow back up on that. But one of the things, Church of Scientology under L. Ron Hubbard. So the Church of Scientology is getting bigger. We're talking about in the 70s and stuff like that. L. Ron Hubbard is starting to be pursued by the IRS and the federal government because he's not paying taxes on any of this money that he's taking in. So he wants Scientology. That's why he takes Dianetics and turns it into a religion, turns it into Scientology, because he wants to be tax exempt. He doesn't want to have to pay any money on this. So what does he do with the money? He buys a boat. He buys a boat and puts everybody on the boat. And he's just going to be, we're in international waters. We're just going to sail around port to port.
Would you call it a boat or an ark?
By definition, it would be an ark.
Yeah, the sea. That's the beginning of the Sea Org.
Yeah,
right?
That's the beginning of Sea Org. And so the Church of Scientology is actually a hodgepodge mixture of a bunch of different organizations that you can be involved with. Sea Org was one of the original ones, and it involved the boat, the Free Winds or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And basically, it was him dodging taxes, and he would pull into a port until they got tired of him and then run him off. I mean, he was sued in France and had to leave France, Portugal, all these ports. They just ran him off, and until he basically had to come back to the States, and then he went into hiding.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when that's when it started getting really controversial.
Yeah. You want to describe the contract when you want to sign up for the Sea Org?
Please go ahead.
Well, this is when you sign up for a Sea Org
straight face
contract. You have to sign a 1 billion year contract to commit.
Because it's your fate in signing the contract. You're a mortal soul. Remember?
Yeah. And
you can sign a 5-year contract.
Well,
but they really talk you into doing the 1 billion year.
But that's you're basically treated like a slave at that point too, because they give you. Hold on. I know that the Sea Org was treated like this, but I don't know when it comes to other members. Like Rob, you're saying it's a mixture of different organizations mixed in one for this.
Yeah,
but
several different organizations.
I guess was it only reserved for for the Sea Org for when people the money they received for the amount of work they were doing. It was $15, $20
a week.
Yeah, what was that? Only Sea Org members were?
No, it's all the Scientology.
It's all Scientologists, right?
Because most of those people, you got to remember. So one of the things that I found really interesting is one of the things I had questioned, and just from personal experience, I wondered how can somebody get so wrapped up in something like this that that there's no escape. You know what I mean? Where you feel like you can't escape. And Leah Remini addressed this, and one of the things she said was, watch your feet are coming real close to the power switch on that thing.
Oh, yeah. No.
I was
you're going to kill kill this podcast. Hey, Brian, will you grab a couple more beers out of the fridge since you're the beer bitch tonight?
Me too,
Take your headphones off.
Yeah, don't do that. I've done
Paul's done that.
Sorry, Brian.
So Leah Remini addresses that. She says that you have to commit 2.5 hours a day to working at the Church of Scientology. And if you miss, if you're not able to be there, you have to make it up. So if you go on vacation, Joe Rogan asked her, well, what if you go on vacation? How do you make it? She's like, nobody in Scientology goes on vacation.
Yeah. You're constantly fucking working and auditing and all this shit.
Yeah, you're constantly going through audits.
God.
And all that kind of bullshit. So as you're going through, all these things, it's that was one of the things that really got me. It was okay, if you work a full-time job and you have to do 2.5 hours at the church every day, let's say you work 8 to 5, and it takes you an hour to get to the church. That means you're there till 8:30 and then home by. That's your whole life.
Or you get your ass up at 4, get to the church at 5, and put your 2.5 hours in before work.
Yeah, or go on the and you have to go. And that's the weekends also. Okay. All you know is the Church of Scientology, basically.
I want to point out one thing, and I want to get you guys' ideas on this, because this is where, and don't get me wrong, I've heard and read everything you guys have said, and I couldn't agree with you more. My only argument is no one forces these people to do this.
Master
they
manipulation.
All agree to it.
It's crazy.
And that's the one thing about, this religion.
That's the thing about cults, man.
The working.
I'll give them the respect and call them a religion.
Himself.
That's fine. But the thing is, the one thing that, at least, and correct me if I'm wrong, Scientologists aren't doing is they're not burning people at the stake for not believing. They're not doing forceful. These people are signing up, and don't get me wrong, they're signing up for some jacked up stuff.
But we'll get into some of the more.
You throw the word out like slave and things, and they are, but they're volunteering. And at what point do we step in and say, dude, we're not going to let you do that? Or,
I don't think we need to step in. I think that what you do
we just look on the outside and go, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I think we do exactly what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
We talk about it and put all the facts out there and realize, so that people hear it and this is
hopefully
crazy
somebody
and don't
else
get
doesn't
involved.
get suckered in.
That's why Leah Remini says, and Ron Miscavige, that's why they said that they wrote their books, is because they said maybe this will keep some people out of this. And at the height of Scientology, they had close to 100,000 members. They said estimates now are closer to about 10.
Really?
There's only about 10,000 members. Yeah, they're not getting in any new members.
Fucking morons.
Have anybody here ever been to LA? Have y'all seen that?
The Celebrity
I've seen
Center?
pictures, but
no, I do. I stood right by it with the big green letters Scientology up in
so
the
here's a great
ugly ass fucking
here's a great quote from Joe Rogan. It's not a Joe Rogan quote because he admits that it's not his quote. But do you know what the difference between a cult and a religion is?
Time.
I was gonna say this quote. I love this.
No, what is it? I've never heard it. What is it?
A cult is bullshit. It's created by one person, and that person knows that it's bullshit. In a religion, that dude is dead.
So I think that joke is funny. I mean, being at the same time,
being a Christian.
Yeah,
I mean, I
am a Christian, and I get to think that Scientologist is like Scientology is bullshit at the same time. That's freedom of speech right there.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Okay, but let me ask, when you say that dude is dead,
the dude who knows that
the
it's
dude
bullshit.
Who made up the religion, like any of them, pick one. Yeah. That dude is dead.
That dude is dead.
The guy who knew it was bullshit.
So when David,
he's the only one that knew.
So then when David Miscavige dies, didn't we say it's a religion?
No, L. Ron Hubbard died.
LRH is already dead.
So that's when it became a religion.
That's when it became a religion.
Oh, okay. So then David drank the Kool-Aid. He believes it.
Oh, he believes it wholeheartedly.
You really think so?
I really do.
Yeah. According to his father.
According to his father,
I don't know, man.
He saw that.
I think he calls out a lot of L. Ron Hubbard's bullshit. I think he's just made it. And no, I believe with the father. I think he's created it, like you said, and he's a dictator. I think he realized it was a money maker, and he stuck it, grabbed it, changed it, and he's killing it.
But there was interviews after the fact in that documentary that basically said, they asked people directly that were close to him and said, is he a true believer? And they're like, yeah, he drank the Kool-Aid, 100%.
And that you got to understand, like Ron Miscavige,
to be that deep.
Yeah, I mean, he quit high school and went to go work for L. Ron Hubbard at 16.
Well, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think he was drinking the Kool-Aid at the beginning, but I think after you drink enough of that Kool-Aid, you realize, oh, this is bullshit. But at the same time, you realize, well, fuck, I can make a lot of money on this. Well, I dropped out at 16. What the fuck else am I going to do with my life?
If you look at the flow of Scientology and their doctrination of people, and they're growing, what the whole purpose of a religion or a cult is to grow people. If you're inside of this religion and you're taught that everybody else is wrong, why wouldn't you want to spread that as far as you can? That's what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints believes. I mean, and Mormons, they have missions where they go out and try to encourage people to come to the church.
That's Christianity as well.
I respect that in
Matthew
any
28.
religion. But, I mean, Scientology does not do that.
Get out of here.
That's the Great Commission.
Scientology doesn't do that, though. They don't try to pull in new people unless they have money. So I agree with you on that point, that I think that he's a businessman. Like,
exactly.
He's wanting to come in and he knows a way to make money. He sees that.
All I'm saying is he living a good life? Is he paid?
Apparently,
sure.
we can't see their books. Apparently, the Church of Scientology
is
worth upwards of $15 billion.
Okay, so do you think the coronavirus has hurt him at all? Or do you think he's living in his wherever the hell he is doing all
nobody
right?
knows. Nobody knows what happened to his wife.
I'm just saying.
His wife just disappeared.
Yeah. And
hey, money does that, dude.
No, but I was gonna say, like, how like you say you drink the Kool-Aid, and like how much he really believes in it. But the thing is, you guys had mentioned
he went behind the curtain, man, and he saw.
But the thing is, I think what really sealed the deal for him when he was younger, because he had severe asthma attacks, and he claimed through one communication session with an auditor cured his asthma. From there, never had an episode apparently, and I think that's what really maybe sealed the deal. And he saw that this is something. It made him believe, because like it was severe for him when he was young. It affected him. So the fact that, according to that, being a Scientologist and going through a communication audit, as they were saying, it had that profound effect on him so much. I think it just really made him believe. I don't know. That's a start. Planting a seed right there from the beginning.
Don't get me wrong. I do. Like I said, I do think he did believe it at the beginning.
But I think it's business now.
I think now he knows it's just business. A money maker, and he's just going to write it out.
Exactly.
Man.
So do you think that auditing session cured him of his asthma, or do you think that his asthma was anxiety induced and it cured him of his anxiety?
That's my point. That's my point.
Probably
and that's what I wanted to say is, what, that whole the e-meters and auditing, that's just psychotherapy. That's all they're doing. They're just talking to you, trying to figure out what's wrong with you, and then they talk about it and make you feel better. And I mean, and that's why I said,
and that's what gets people hooked. You leave and you feel better.
See, and that's why I told you. That's why they don't tell you the crazy shit until level 4.
And that's what Leah Remini said also.
Yeah, that's the whole money aspect.
So here's how they. We'll get to this in a second. We're kind of jumping ahead a little bit on kind of the inner workings of the Church of Scientology, because. L. Ron Hubbard.
You didn't give me your outline, man. I didn't know.
Well, I'm trying to follow. It's okay. Don't worry.
Finish up, man. We're ready to talk. He's still going on about the overview.
Well, we're trying to get through the whole background so people know the entire story of who this guy is.
As the years gone by, it looks like a fucking clown. L. Ron Hubbard.
L. Ron Hubbard, he did not want to be associated with psychotherapists, with psychology at all.
They're enemies.
I know. I was going to say they're enemies.
They are. And so... being said, going through, after he brought back into port, and went into hiding. Okay, so he brings the Free Winds back into port and goes into hiding, and they start expanding the Church of Scientology, and he actually gets tax exempt religious status for a little while, and then the government is like, I don't know that this is really a religion, and yanks it. Okay, so then he starts fighting against it a lot.
Yeah.
So this is kind of around the time where David Miscavige comes in. He's 16 years old, and by the time, I think that his dad said within 4 to 6 months, like, he was working directly with L. Ron Hubbard. Like, he was his right-hand man. And that's when all these crazy policies started being written about, like, if you leave the church, you are, like, excommunicated. Like, we will fucking destroy your family that's in the church, no longer allowed to talk to you. Like, we will destroy your whole character. You are not a good person. I forget what they call it. What do they call it?
Sounds like excommunication.
Suppressive person.
Which is basically excommunication. They just grabbed that idea and stole it. That's what I'm telling you. They just steal all other religions' ideas.
Yeah. It's just repackaged.
But, I mean, if you're excommunicated from the church, it's just the church. You still can talk to your family.
But remember, back then, when people actually got excommunicated from the church was everything.
That is true.
Yep. So, no, it was... I mean, dude, you weren't even allowed to get buried.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say... backtracking just a tad.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Rob, you said earlier about, like, when... I guess this is when David Miscavige was getting into, like, when the IRS and stuff like that, because they were trying to get it, tax... his religion. So in retaliation, he told all members, or at least as much as he can, to fax the IRS and drain all their ink of all their fax machines. Right.
They would fax them all black papers, multiple
there you
copies
go. Yeah,
of it.
We're
gonna eat up that toner.
So when David Miscavige took over, when L. Ron Hubbard died in 1986, he really, really wanted that's when Scientology came into kind of its own, like where it is now. It started into these splinter groups. He started forming different LLCs and things like that. And that's when he really started pushing for that church status, to get that tax exempt status. So what they did was they got every lawyer that was a Scientologist involved, and they filed, I think, upwards of like 1,000 different lawsuits or 2,000 different lawsuits against the IRS for various things.
Yeah, and even things not associated with Scientology.
Yeah, not associated with Scientology.
They didn't care at all.
Yeah, it was just
for everything.
Whatever they could sue for, they sued for. And it just put the pressure on the IRS. It was all in the, it was using up all the IRS's resources just to fucking fight these frivolous lawsuits. So basically it came down to Miscavige like blackmailing, using extortion to get their religious status, and he got it.
Yep. I mean, why not? Millions of dollars.
And it's funny because they have I seen a video where they have like a ceremony. Scientologists, the war is over, we won, and like to know, like, well, you gave the backstory, Rob. It was like, this is, I don't know. It's like, it is what it is, but
they did beat the IRS.
Yeah, kind of. I would say fuck the IRS and on certain things. So but that's pretty crazy. I don't know.
In Scientology, we don't believe in death or taxes. Fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah. No shit.
It's pretty good.
So now we enter this new realm of Scientology, where kind of what we're all familiar with, which is more the David Miscavige era of Scientology, where it's become less of this outreach of self-help and more of this, like, you don't speak out against my church or you will, like, basically you
get
will die.
sued.
Straight up dictatorship is what it is.
It is. And I think that, L. Ron Hubbard did not have a will and did not give the church to David Miscavige.
Yeah, he assumed.
He just kind of assumed power. Yeah. He was the one closest to L. Ron Hubbard. I mean, we don't know that David Miscavige didn't murder L. Ron Hubbard because it was at his private ranch.
Wouldn't doubt it.
That's a bold accusation, Robbie.
I'm throwing it out there, though. I'm putting it on the table.
He didn't do his well.
He didn't allege it. I'm just saying. You're just saying it's in the realm of possibility that.
Are you
objection?
Well, I'm looking out for you, dude.
That's in the realm of my lawyer has. He has
defamation's a real thing, so.
That's fine. He can let him sue me. That'd be the best thing that ever happened to this podcast.
That means we won. The war is over.
We made it.
How little money we have.
We made it, baby.
I'm waiting for him to come outside my house. Like, I've been fucking waiting for you guys.
Come door to door.
It's like Westboro Baptist Church. That's what we need to do an episode on them.
Jesus.
Oh, man. Let's just go after all.
I'm not going.
This is the first of many, folks. A new series. People who want to the what's it called?
Stirring
harass
the pot
us.
of people that want to kill us.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Rule 1 was no politics, no religion. You're like, fuck it.
Hey, this ain't no fucking religion.
This is not a religion. I disagree.
I get people believe it, but this is fucked up, man. This is manipulation on a level that I've never. That is fucked up.
This is most definitely psychotic manipulation.
Yes.
So, I'm. Where were we? So David Miscavige takes over the Church of Scientology. He starts
still on the outline.
So we're talking about kind of, let's talk about the levels in the church. So the church has levels. So you go through all these different levels, and they all have monetary equivalents.
You're talking about the dynamics, the 8 dynamics?
Yeah.
I got you.
So you get to be like an OT1, OT2, which is operating Thetan, OT.
Yep.
So all the way up to OT8. And OT 8 is like the highest level. You know all the secrets and blah, 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 blah. But apparently OT 3 was the only thing that L. Ron Hubbard ever talked about. Like once you get to OT 3, like that's it. Like you have transcendence. And then too many people had OT 3. And then they needed more money. So all of a sudden, David. No. L. Ron Hubbard was dead at this point.
I told
David
you.
Miscavige comes out and was like, these papers. We found these papers.
We found these lost writings.
We found the Dead Sea Ron Hubbard scrolls. And they say that the OT level goes all the way to 8 now.
So do you see why I say he stopped believing in the Kool-Aid and just made it a business?
Yeah,
I don't disagree with you.
That sounds like a smart business move. From what I know,
you got to keep the buyer buying, man. If they've already bought all the products, what are you going to do? Okay, but
you make more
to jump on these dynamics. Do you guys know what the dynamics are?
No, please.
Okay. So don't get me wrong, and this is where I'm telling you, like this David dude, he's not an idiot. Like, no. He's a smart man, and he's stealing ideas from religions. So like dynamic, and again, he explains it. If you look at like the Scientology website, there's supposed to be concentric circles. So you start off in the middle and you work your way out to the 8th if you can get there. So basically, the first dynamic is yourself, your individuality. So you have to focus on you and who you are as a person. Once you've established that, then you can move to the second one. The second one is what they call the sex dynamic, which is where you are now ready to basically procreate and have kids. So now you've moved out to that. They
say I can have sex now.
Exactly. So you've matured enough now where you can start a family. So now you're in the second one. The third one is the group dynamic, which is basically like civilization but in a small version, like a culture. So just like a society, basically. Like the American society would be group 3. You're now a functioning member of the American society. You've learned what you had to learn in order to be there. You're good. Great. Well, now you got 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. This is where things start getting a little crazy. So 4, and remember, I'm about 4 buckle bunnies in right now, so I'm going off memory here. So
liar.
So 4 is when you're now with mankind. So now you realize you're not just a member of you're not just a member of your family, you're not just a member of your society, you are a member of mankind. So now you're concerned with mankind's wellness and mankind, what's good for the people. Level 5 is then everything, like besides mankind, the earth, if you will, like nature. There it is. So now you're concerned with nature, and you've tapped into them too. So now you're in sync with the world and all the people and nature. So now you're caring about all that. And now level 6.
There's 3 more levels,
dude.
How much more can we go?
No. Level 6.
All right, go.
Ready.
Boring as Rob.
6 is because this is where it gets crazy. Here's the big.
There it is. I was waiting for somebody to call me out on it.
Here's the buildup.
Usually it's Jake.
6 is
I'm glad I can fill the spot.
6 is, and then listen to the word I'm going to say here. The universes, which I don't know what the fuck that means. I don't know if they believe in like multiverses.
Again, have you seen Rick and Morty?
I'm telling you, exactly, right? Apparently they have seen Scientology. So like at level 6, you're now in touch with the universes.
Boring.
And everything in it. Get it, Homer. Okay, I'm going to move forward. Level 7 is now you're in the spiritual realm, and you've established connections with not only everything in the universe, but everything spiritual. Once you do that, then you get to level 8, and you're in infinity. You have become one with the supreme. What's his name again? Xenu.
So that's when you get to this level.
Yeah.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens.
That's number 9.
No,
that's level 8.
And OT9.
And that's it. And
I want to add one. OT9. You basically.
That's when you take DMT.
That's
you realize
all
everything
this
is bullshit.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, again. for the listeners out there who wanted a breakdown of Scientology, that's the 8.
No, I didn't know. Like you broke it down pretty nicely.
I did not
Good
job,
get that
Eddie.
far.
I thought you said you weren't a Scientologist.
This
guy right here he brought recruiting papers.
Do you remember my weird flex? Religious studies. I can tell you the same shit about Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, and Judaism.
Why do I have a pamphlet right now about Scientologists?
Why is Tom Cruise here?
Come
on, Tom. You're listening to this.
Let's talk about that, because one of the weird things about Scientology is that it separates its celebrities from its normal parishioners. The normal parishioners have rules. There are rules. This is not Nam.
Whereas in Christianity, we bring in Kanye. No,
so in Scientology, they have a celebrity center, and that's where they go. The celebrities get to do whatever they want, as long as they tout the benefits of Scientology. They can basically do whatever they want. Yeah. Whereas the normal people in Scientology cannot. And so they have this thing in Scientology. It's basically a snitch program is what it is. Bunch of fucking snitches everywhere. Yeah. Whenever you see somebody doing something fucked up, you have to write a report. A whole report. You can't just go tell somebody something. You have to write a physical report on them to say what they were doing wrong. That sounds like a lot of work.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Does it require a thesis statement?
Every fucking time, yeah. Fucking Ford.
FMLA, Chicago, what kind of citation you want?
I mean, so basically, like Leah Remini talks about, like, when she was in there and Tom Cruise went on Oprah and, like, that whole crazy rant that he went on, she wrote a report on him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she wrote a report on all these. They went to some celebrity's birthday party.
That's how they were taught to do, though.
Yeah.
Are you calling Oprah a snitch?
So basically the way they've indoctrinated these people and brainwashed them is that's how they keep people in. Because let's say that, like, Brian and I are in Scientology, and we're going up.
Away from
he's higher than me, right? So he's like, man, this is all bullshit. But if I say this is bullshit, like, I'm going to get sent to this fucking internment camp.
Either I write a report. If I don't write a report, he's going to write.
I'm going to write a report calling him out on it.
Yeah. And then if I don't, I'm in trouble because
it's fucked up.
I might write a report.
It's a double back and forth. It's really fucked up.
That's why they all have stitches.
Again,
all of them.
Exactly. I probably should have prefaced my talks with this.
I was gonna say
I am a theorist. I go by what the theory is. Now, in practice, is Scientology fucked up with all this crazy shit you guys are pointing out? Hell yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like this, like the snitching system.
One of the worst
bullshit.
things about Scientology is if you leave the church, you are branded what was it called again, Paul?
Suppressive.
Suppressive person. So if you're branded a suppressive person, you are automatically like excommunicated from everybody.
You're evil.
They bought. So when David Miscavige's father left the church, they bought 500 website domain names.
Yeah.
to write fucked up things about him.
Yeah.
Called him a pedophile. I mean, all kinds of stuff.
It's complete slander. They're just going off on him.
And also, one of the other things that was really fucked up, if you've seen the Going Clear documentary, one of the guys that left the church was like one of the really higher ups, and he married or was dating a lady that was not in Scientology at all. And if you leave and you're one of the higher ups and you have a bunch of these secrets, they call you, what do they call you, a squirrel. And they have these squirrel buster squads that are basically like stalking you 24 hours a day to dig up dirt to blackmail you with.
Yeah.
So the thing that's fucked up
so they're dogs after the squirrel. Huh?
Is like the guys that are on
weasels.
These squirrel buster squads. Like, they don't think they're doing, and they wear squirrel buster hats and shit.
Idiots.
And I want one of those. I want a squirrel buster hat.
We're at the church one day.
I would wear a fucking squirrel buster hat.
So, but the fucked up thing is,
even better. I want a squirrel buster hat, and on the back it just says, like, everybody trying to get a nut.
So what's really fucked up in this specific situation is that the guys that were in the Scientology, they were like, we couldn't do anything because we had signed contracts and then we left.
Exactly.
And they were like, we couldn't get restraining orders on these guys because we had signed away that right.
Yep.
He's like, but my wife didn't sign that contract.
Yeah.
So then she sued them and got them arrested for stalking these
yeah.
two people, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And those guys are smiling the whole time. It's like, you guys, like, okay. I mean, the church is not, at that point, the church excommunicates those guys also.
Oh.
Like, I think,
Really?
I think that's what they were saying.
Jesus.
Fucking idiots.
Again.
Fucking morons. They're just doing fucking scapegoats, man. All I'm doing fucking David Miscavige's fucking dirty work.
Yeah, I mean,
What a
like,
fucking piece of shit.
and it's one of those things. It's like
when
you
you
do everything right in that church, and like, I mean, your life is still fucked.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right, yeah, it's and you're walking such a thin fucking line and so many eggshells, you're bound to fuck up or they're going to come after you. What's fucked up about his father, though, is like the guy was like receiving like $30 a week for so many years. Eventually, he got to raise to 50. You know, that's fucked up.
What's even more fucked up, I thought was he said, because you're making so little money, that's nothing you're putting into Social Security. So if you leave the church and you're old,
retiring.
you're not getting anything out.
Yeah, that's fucked
and
up.
you're just stuck.
Yeah,
again,
that's how they get
when
you.
he does, like when Ron, Dave's father decides to escape. He was. This is fucked up. The whole reason I brought up the amount of money he was making a week. They fucking hire these fucking PIs. They pay him $10,000 a fucking week. The stock his
$15 billion they have.
Yeah, but they
Again,
$10,000 to hire these fucking PIs, and his own father was only receiving $50 fucking dollars a week. And he's paying these fucking assholes to stalk his dad $10,000 a week.
I'm about to break some hearts real quick.
We just pointed out $15 billion. You can spend $10,000 to keep your $15 billion
I know.
dollar investment.
No, but I'm just saying, compared to his father was getting paid. I'm just saying that's fucked up. It's so tragic. Like his own son, was fucking treating him like that, and just I don't know. It just seems fucked up.
Again, at some point, I mean, I hate to say it again,
he didn't
but
even acknowledge his dad at times. He wouldn't call him dad. He would say Ron.
Yeah, I mean,
it was fucked up.
Don't get me wrong. There's got to be some personal responsibility in these people that fall for this shit. But at the same time, this business model, because that's all it is.
Okay, so I'm just
it's not going to last.
I'm going to give you some math. At $10,000 a week, you could hire 5,000 PIs.
Yeah, and you're selling
5,000 PIs at $10,000 a week for an entire year, and that's only $5 billion.
Yeah,
I mean, if you hire one PI for a whole year at $10,000, you're looking at $500,000.
It wasn't necessarily like I said. I'm just
$500,000 a PI for a year.
You could put
how much
a PI,
money he's willing to spend to stalk his dad. He didn't care about his dad.
Dude, so I want to break some hearts.
Are you going to spend money to make money or what?
Yeah.
Hold on, I got to break some hearts real quick because I've been waiting. Oh my god, I've been waiting for this for a while. I've been waiting. I've been.
All right, go on, spew.
So, because Paul loves The Simpsons so much, we're going to talk about celebrities that are members of the Scientology church.
I was going to say, segue back to that because you started.
So who are the most notorious Scientologists?
Well, Nancy Cartwright is one.
No,
Bart Simpson.
Tom Cruise.
Yes.
Tom Cruise.
Well, I was going to The Simpsons route, but Nancy Cartwright is a
she donates
Scientologist?
she donates a lot of fucking money to them.
Who else is
are you going to stop?
Tom Cruise, of course. John Travolta.
Yep.
Juliette Lewis.
Yep.
She's fucking one of them.
Yeah,
Danny Masterson.
Hayes. Juliette Lewis has been batshit crazy from day one.
The redhead that was in that 70s show. Yeah,
she's a Scientologist?
Yeah.
Giovanni Ribisi and his sister Marissa Ribisi.
That hurts. I love Laura
Danny
Prepon.
and his, I think it's his sister or his wife, Danny Masterson from that 70s show.
Yeah,
you know who else is that really surprised me? Is Michael Pena.
What?
Yeah.
Fucking
Jason
traitor.
Lee?
Yeah, Jason Lee.
Yeah. That one threw me
Jason
today.
Lee.
Yeah. Jason Lee.
Beck. They talked about
I still
Beck
like
on
you,
the
Michael
podcast.
Pena. I don't.
I don't. Is that confirmed?
I mean, God damn, that
Is
sucks.
Beck really like? Is that confirmed? I haven't seen that anywhere else.
Beck, well, they talked about it on Joe Rogan and stuff, but I've seen it on a list as well.
I haven't heard it anywhere else except that.
Who
podcast.
was the news anchor they were talking about on the podcast?
Oh, Greta Van Susteren?
Greta Van Susteren. That's right. Yeah.
Well, lucky for me, I can compartmentalize, and I don't really give a shit what
so?
you believe in your normal life. I'm gonna still watch that '70s show because
Yeah, I don't care. That's
Jenna
I was gonna say,
Elfman.
are you gonna stop watching The Simpsons, Paul?
Fuck no.
Exactly.
You know what? Really,
not.
one of the things that really got me. One of my favorite. I'm a bass player, and one of my favorite
you're
bass
not.
players, Billy Sheehan, is a Scientologist.
Who's he from?
He played bass for Steve Vai, David Lee Roth, Mr. Big.
What does he look
Paul,
like?
Paul, this one's for you. Ready?
Is he skinny and tall?
Yeah.
Hey, you know what?
Is this,
Ponytail.
like shaved all around?
No, it's not shaved, but it's real tight to the head.
I seen this one guy like I don't know. We're going off subject, but anyway. Okay.
Either way, Po Buddy's nerfed. Okay,
Po Buddy's perfect.
there's your
that the
Simpsons
guy?
quote.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that guy before. Shut up, Po Buddy's perfect.
Nobody's nerfing.
I'm gonna make it.
Come
This is the
on.
first day of my life.
Anyway,
Giovanni
I said Giovanni
Yeah,
and Marissa. Ribisi.
Just wanted that didgeridoo, damn it.
Didgeridoo.
I gotta get a didgeridoo sound effect on the board.
No, you don't. It's swirly.
Nah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine without it.
You know that's what, right?
You know what you need? You need a sound clip that just says squirrel banger.
Yeah.
Squirrel banger.
What is it?
That's a
Squirrel
Jessica
bu- squirrel-
one.
squirrel
Jessica
bu-
would have got that.
Squirrel Buster. Sorry.
Fuck your Skull Buster.
What the fuck are they
Squirrel
called?
Hunger Buster.
No, I'm talking about the fucking
Oh, the
Scientology.
what
Oh,
do
yeah,
they
the
call
Squirrel
them?
Busters.
Squirrel
Fucking
Busters.
losers. Those guys are weasels.
We have really good ones though, like Cliff. That's Paul's dad. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's your dad?
Yeah.
Well, no,
I mean, it's Jacob,
that's Jacob saying my
Ultra
dad's
Cliff.
Oh, I was
name.
about to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that's Paul's dad's
We got-
name.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean-
Yeah.
We got we got
It's a fuck stick, huh?
That's from Bad Santa.
we got all kinds of good stuff.
That is good. That's good.
That was us, actually.
no,
Get off
the Price is Right
That's
one
terrible.
was
Yeah,
fantastic.
you fucking
The Price
child.
is Right one's really good.
That's a good one. That's a
It
good
Yeah,
is good.
Jacob style.
This is one of my
Yeah.
favorite ones. I never get to use this one.
Hey, everybody, we're all gonna get laid.
I get no respect. No respect.
Yeah,
Let's
that never
party.
happened. So
I never get to use my Caddyshack ones because they've never seen Caddyshack.
I haven't.
How old are you guys?
Yeah. I don't know. Somewhere in the fucking 30s.
Dude, you
Um,
never seen
yeah,
Caddyshack?
yeah.
That's the
Go
next-
watch
dude,
Caddyshack.
come
I'll
on.
watch it high
I'm
later.
in my early 30s.
All right.
I'll be honest. Next week, I'm turning.
Good for you, Rob.
Hey, I'm turning 37
You're telling
on
yourself.
Saturday. I
no,
don't give
you
a
are
shit.
Really?
serious.
Yeah, I'm an old
I turned
man,
37
dude.
last Saturday.
There you
Damn.
go.
Hey, man, happy birthday!
Hey,
He's
happy
the-
happy
he's the-
birthday, bro.
Cheers!
Cheers, Eddie.
Yes, sir. Cheers.
And I turned 37 in like 2 months from now.
Yeah, 27 Saturdays.
You guys, did y'all grow up around here?
Yeah. We
What high
graduated
school
from
did y'all
Langham
go
Creek High
to?
School.
Langham Creek is like
Fuck y'all,
a
Maid
mile
Creek.
from here.
Oh, that's why.
I was gonna say, I'm Maid Creek.
Yeah,
Fuck
He
yeah.
lives in Bear Creek, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're our like
Jersey
natural
Village.
sworn enemy
Yeah,
from high
exactly.
school. Apparently,
They're from
Damn
different
right.
school
Doesn't
districts.
matter. Doesn't matter.
Whatever.
There's only one creek, and it's Maid Creek.
I don't
Sound
even
like
think I
fighting
know where
words.
Langham Creek. Actually, Langham Creek is more
Right there.
prominent
Yeah,
than
it is,
Bear
it
Creek.
is. No,
Bear
it is.
Creek is nowhere around here, by the way.
it's-
I mean, it's
not.
got the park and the reservoir. And
No,
shit.
that is not Bear Creek. That is Langham
Attic.
Creek.
No, but remember, we
That
were
is
All right.
Langham Creek.
talking about that. We're talking about the high school, Maid Creek. The Maid Creek
yeah,
is
Maid
right
Creek,
there.
out in Katy.
It is right there.
So,
Out in Katy. It's pretty close to where Bear
so
Creek is.
back to L. Ron Hubbard
L. Ron
and his
Hubbard.
mysterious Pulp Fiction
We
novel
digress.
that he was
No, no, no.
fucking living
We
through.
digress.
Commodore L. Ron Hubbard.
Commodore.
He named himself Commodore.
Gave himself fucking
I-
medals.
chips.
Fucking idiot.
Don't get me wrong. If I could name myself Commodore Eddie, I'd do it.
Or L. Ron Hubbard. That's pretty sexified too. I swear, throughout the
Change your first name to an initial.
Right. L.
P. Angel Jenky.
That sounds good. At all.
I think we just that's it.
That's how you. That's your new. We're just gonna call you that from now on.
You get to say without the fucking accent.
No, we're gonna say it on hell.
No.
Don't be like my.
You know what? No, you better want the accent, because if it's not the accent, you're the fucking P angel, bro.
Yeah,
I'll take it. I'd rather have that. I'm fine with that.
I'm gonna tell Jacob that we're gonna call it. That's your new.
No, don't tell him shit.
He's gonna hear this. So.
No, he won't.
El P Angel.
Fuck, man. But yeah, he started looking like a clown towards the end of his years, L. Ron Hubbard. It was just hilarious. More and more very clown-like. I don't know if that was intentional or not. Or maybe it's just his demise was, that goes to show
his outside was
reflection.
The inside,
exactly. It was a reflection of the inside of his mind. Very clown-like, crazy. Scientology.
I think honestly, like when you think about it, the guy wanted to make a buck, right? So, the guy was writing, a penny a word Pulp Fictions and making, however much money and came up with this concept of Dianetics. Yeah. And, honestly, like, it's all a money making scheme.
And it worked.
But the thing is, too,
and that's the worst part.
But
it worked.
Did it?
It did.
Yeah.
Did he live a decent
for a
life?
while it did.
Don't get me wrong. Us talking smack and whatever, pointing out the fallacies and the falsities of Scientology isn't taking any money out of that $15 billion.
Of course not. Yeah.
So what do you think about the allegations that David Miscavige has propagated the use of physical abuse of church staff members? And they've covered up. There's allegations of child abuse and child molestation abuses inside the church that are covered up. And how much money do you think that he donates to the police to get them to leave him alone?
Good question.
Don't get me wrong, and at this point, I'm just being a douchebag and going to play devil's advocate here. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, what religion hasn't done that, man?
That's true.
That is true.
If you want to bundle all Christian religions,
it's not even just Christian. You can throw. And again, I got nothing against the Church of Latter-day Saints, but that was a big deal. The Catholic Church, that was a big deal.
A huge deal.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, and this is where my regular and these are my true Christian beliefs will come in. People are fucked up, dude. And you give too many people too much power and too much money, and they're going to do some fucked up shit. And this is all that.
That's the whole thing. It's like power corrupts absolutely, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Power corrupts and absolute power.
No, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
Done. How many people does it take to do that quote?
There's a lot of beers being passed around, by the way. Which I will just give a shout out. Getting back on their feet, I went and visited. I'm going to shift gears a little bit so we can plug our sponsors a little bit. I went out and visited. Evan over at Eureka Heights on his first day back to the shop. The Eureka Heights over at 914 West 18th Street. I was saying 941, which people were probably going to the wrong address. If anybody
classic wrong.
I was about to credit you for remembering.
He's dyslexic. Okay.
Look, nobody's Googling the addresses I say it. They're Googling the location. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Eureka Heights used the COVID lockdown to their great advantage. They've done a whole fresh paint job on the outside of the building. Wow. It looks fantastic. They've revamped the inside of it. As soon as they get open full force, Evan has promised me that we're going to host an event over there.
Double Dare Part 2.
We're going to do not Double Dare Part 2. That was a huge pain in the ass.
Eddie's Revenge.
No,
maybe we'll do a wrestling match.
No,
that would be fucking
dude, I can set it up.
I'm going to get you to
build
build.
You want to put on a show? I'll put on a show. I got guys with rings, everything.
You should put on a good time.
You should put on Letterkenny Trivia Part 2.
Yeah. Letterkenny Trivia Part 2, but I don't want to put up my pitter patter banner as prize.
No, you wouldn't be able to do that.
That came hard fought.
You lazy fuck.
I will just say that Brian was on my team when we won Letterkenny Trivia.
What was that Nickelodeon show
we dominated.
Wheel Snipe Sally's.
The Wheel Snipe Sally boys. If you don't listen to, if you
It's a
don't
good
watch
show.
Letterkenny,
God, Evan, please do a
you
Simpsons
should
trivia.
watch Letterkenny.
Please.
Hey,
Maybe
dude.
I'll talk Evan into getting us into we'll do a Simpsons trivia. We'll host a
No,
Simpsons
but I've
trivia.
never seen anybody. I mean, well,
We'll make it really fucking hard.
yeah.
And you can host it.
Yes.
Dude,
oh, I don't know if I can host it, but I like to be
No,
a part
Paul
of it.
wants
No,
to
you have
compete.
to make the questions.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. I can
Anyway.
do that, yeah.
Yeah, Paul wants
there
to
you go.
compete. Dude.
Plugging Eureka
Yeah.
Heights.
I want to compete, though. Me and Eddie.
Yeah, fuck you and your
The-
Me
rabbit.
and Eddie right here.
In the
We
rumpus
compete.
room.
The,
Eddie knows his
questions
shit,
and
too.
compete.
Eddie knows his Simpsons very well. I'm very impressed. I bet my match.
All right. I mean, he showed up wearing a Simpsons T-shirt with his wife to the
Damn right.
Double Team
Yeah,
Challenge.
yeah. That was cool,
I mean,
man.
brought their own uniforms. That was
Yeah.
impressive enough.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was. So anyway, back. Just give Eureka Heights a shout. Make sure you guys swing over there and pick up some stuff. It's cheaper than going to the store. You're going to get great deals on. They do Buckle Bunny and Mini Boss and 12 packs, so you can
Love
go over
that
there and get
Buckle
that.
Bunny.
They've got. I think they've got Wow Factor right now. Mini Boss. They've got. I picked up some Axe Hat and some.
Mostly harmless. Mostly harmless. I drank a lot of that.
Yeah, I always have Mostly Harmless on over here typically. And then I picked up, what was the other one that's one of my favorite, the ESB that they have? Oh, the Wicked Awesome. That's one of my favorites.
Wicked awesome.
So
Wicked awesome.
if you're in the area, drive over there, 914 West 18th Street.
Do they still have the drive-through going?
They do still have the
Yeah,
drive-through
yeah,
going.
yeah.
It's usually 1 to 7, pretty much every single day. Taproom's not going to be open. I think he said that they're going to start opening this week. So they're going to start opening to limited crowds this week. And then when they open back up to full capacity, we'll do some kind of kickoff party or something back over there. Get things going. It will not be Double Dare's challenge.
Hey, we can do a wrestling show.
It's not a bad idea. He wants to hire. He
yeah.
wants to get a band out there, so I may double dip on that and do a
There you
podcast
go.
and
Double
have
dip. you
my
nasty
band play
fuck.
out there or something. You know. There you go.
Yeah, and coming soon exclusively
Is
at
that a
Eureka
conflict of
Heights,
interest,
Beluga
Rob?
I don't
Light.
think so. When we're not
Beluga
getting
Light,
paid
baby.
that much, I mean, that's not really.
I'm telling you, Evan, baby, honey, baby, what's up there, handsome?
That's a pretty good payment.
Please heed my words and make
One of
my
these
dream
days,
come true.
One
Beluga
day
Light.
we will have our own Gentleman No Class beer at Eureka Heights.
Beluga Light.
Beluga
baby.
Light.
Please, Evan, make a girl happy. Not me.
I've
but
pitched the idea that they just
once.
I pitched the idea that we would split the cost of the design with them, and if they would just print the labels and just randomly can beers. It doesn't even have to be a new beer. Just randomly
an old
can
beer.
beers.
That's
and
true.
just
That's
slap
true.
the- so you buy a
ran
six-
out. Yeah, you ran out of.
Make it a mystery beer.
Yeah, it could be
A
like
mystery beer, Evan.
You buy a
It's a
6-pack.
shuffle.
You buy a 6-pack of Beluga Light. You don't know what you're
It's a
getting.
mystery,
I would
yeah.
hope be anything.
I would
mystery
hope
beer
three
of
of
what
them
they
would
currently
be
got.
one,
I like that.
and then each other one would be a completely different
Yeah,
beer.
exactly.
Yeah.
You open
Yeah.
one of those, it's like that 6-pack is not the same beer all the way.
Yeah,
Think of how
there you
much
go.
fun that is. That is
Evan,
cool.
come on,
I'm
hear
gonna
us
be honest,
out.
I think that's a great
Beluga
idea.
Light, baby.
Just
I mean,
like-
that's what I'm saying. You
I
heard
mean,
it here first. I pitched it at Evan
Just
directly.
make sure that AK is that Beluga's holding. Smoking a cigarette with an eye patch,
Oh,
please.
Jesus Christ.
It's like a
That's the logo.
Eureka Heights shuffle. The
That's
Beluga
what,
Light.
that's what I'm saying. It's
Nice.
like a variety pack, and
Sex
we call it the
offender
Beluga
shuffle.
Light. You know. Anyway, that way they don't have to
Eureka
brew an
Heights
entire
shuffle.
new beer. You know, that's a pain in the ass.
All right, let's get back to Scientology.
Yeah.
I want to make fun of these motherfuckers.
All right.
Yeah, so back to that clown-looking motherfucker.
So Brian, I mean, you've been kind of quiet the podcast. What are your thoughts and feelings on some of these guys in Scientology and like what their belief structure and what do you think about them?
So, I mean, yeah, 100%. He, RLH. Everybody okay?
Jesus, you okay over there, falling down on the couch and shit?
Here, hold on.
That's wrong. LRH. So he stole a lot of shit from a lot of other religions, and it's like, okay, at the same time, you've gotten everybody to buy into this shit. They are. It's tough. So when you talk about that quote that you brought up, it's like, okay, I believe in something 100% the way that these people in this cult, essentially, that I look at,
it's a cult.
they believe 100% too. So I know there's people out there that look at me and think I'm just as dumb as them.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think
so. I mean, people who look at Christianity and look at essentially any cult or any, religion for that fact as equal, it's tough to say. So I can look at it thinking my beliefs are correct, and at the same time, I'm open to look at new information, new etc. My belief system has actually changed over the last. I've been a Christian my entire life. I was brought into the church at around 2 years old and went through children's church, etc.
Yeah.
So, but if you would ask me the differences between my belief system then and my belief system now, they are very, very different. And I am a lot more, on the liberal side of God and grace and how much He loves us. So. But anyway, the point is people believe what they're going to believe. And it's hard to say, okay, we look at this and it's like, obviously, he made this, how many fiction novels did he write?
Over 1,000. Over 1,000 fiction novels.
He took this and basically was like, hey, let's turn this. And it was, okay, we can make money this way. This is how we make money. Let's turn this into religion. Let's get followers. Let's try and provide some good and really, it's like a pyramid scheme at that point,
Yeah, and I think that's that's a really good analogy is a pyramid scheme, because that's what it is. Eddie said it best. You've got circles, outwardly expanding circles. You could easily equate that to building blocks of a pyramid, right? You're getting bigger and bigger levels as you go. I think the thing you guys pointed to that for me, and honestly, I'm going to be honest. I study the theory of religions. I didn't know anything about the actual facts of some of these things. I had no idea that during L. Ron Hubbard's time, it ended at level 3. And then automatically 5 more levels came in. To me, that just screams, shit, we're out of ideas.
Yeah, what did they say? He found documents in a vault.
We're not making any more money. We better figure something else out.
And what's funny is about that is because he says that we found these documents, right? That's what he says. But there are interviews with L. Ron Hubbard where he talks about, yes, level 3 is as high as it goes. And this was very shortly before his death.
Which, if you think about it, makes sense. Because like I told you guys, level 3 was like society. Once you're in sync with society, you're fine. But, and then the thing and this is why I tell you that David Miscavige, whatever the hell, he's a smart guy. Because, the levels, if you look at them on paper for the first time, it makes sense. And it makes it so out of reach that you really got to bust your ass and pay a shit ton of money to get there.
Yeah, we're talking millions of dollars. Yeah. And there's people that file bankruptcy, take out second and third mortgages on their house to be able to pay to get through the audit sessions to get,
because
to OT1 and 2.
Remember.
That's ridiculous.
Is it though? Think about it. Remember, this is and I'm doing air quotes, this is a religion. So you're pretty much promising these people this immortal soul, this eternal salvation that is at whatever cost. For all intents and purposes, no, not at whatever cost, but for all intents and purposes is buyable. Okay? All other religions don't do that. Every other religion says
donations is more.
No,
that's
not
a difference.
what I mean.
I'm going to fight you on that because
that's not what I mean. What I mean is
there was a practice
eternal,
in
the coffer, a coin in the coffer rings soul from purgatory springs. Yes, I know, and that was a practice. I know. I'm sorry, I'm a nerd.
I'm pretty sure that that was one of the things Jesus went to the temple and
knocked over fucking money changers. Yeah, I know. That's why I told you I'm Jesus centered. But no. You're right. And it's not, and that's my point. This guy is not stupid. He's taking from historical practices, but
he knows what worked.
But
he saw what worked, and he's adapted.
And he made it worse. Not worse, but he's exponentially increased it. Because think about it this way: you tell people nowadays, and historically, not going back, but nowadays, you tell people if you're a Christian, what do you got to do? Okay, I want to go to heaven. I want eternal life. Okay, fine. That means you got to be a good person. Well, what does that mean? That means you got to love your God, love your neighbor, be a good person. I mean, there's rules. There's things you got to do. Okay? In this religion, and again, religion,
I would disagree with you there, but
well, I mean, you got to believe in God. He's got to be your savior. You got to forgiveness of sin. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know all the tenets.
Yeah, Romans 9.
Yeah. But my point. 10, my point is, 9. It's more of an internal.
Well,
there you go. Hell, I'm not the only one. But
all I know is Austin 3:16.
I just whooped your ass.
Wait, here, bust a beer.
Yeah,
not in here. Not in here. I don't want to clean it up.
When we get the epoxy floor.
If it wasn't with Rob, I would have done it.
Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah. But no. My point is that it's still an internal thing. Like, it's something that has to be in your heart, that you have to work for, that you have to, do, literally. But if it's something externally that you have to pay, to me at least, that's more physical. That's more attainable in the sense that, fine, all I got to do is pay this amount of money and I'm good. Yeah. Fuck yeah,
some people have that.
My goddamn
some people
house.
have that mentality too.
Do you think that could be equivalated with prosperity gospel, like in the Christian religion?
Well, not really, because when you say prosperity gospel kind of preaches the opposite. Prosperity gospel says if you believe, you're going to get money.
Yeah, right, but it's tithing.
But there's tithing and there's things like that. But prosperity.
What I'm getting at,
what I would say is,
could you equivalate? Could you equivalate a person in a religion like Scientology and a person like David Miscavige with I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but could you equivalate that with somebody like Joel Osteen and Lakewood Church?
Well, if you think you're going to get hate for that, I'm going to get a lot more hate from what I'm about to say. So, okay. So, I think Joel Osteen does a little bit. Joel Osteen's a little bit different. Joel Osteen does say, give me your money, basically, and do what you're supposed to.
Isn't he more of a motivational speaker?
Yeah,
though,
very
much.
But
his dad was.
No.
But he doesn't call himself a pastor.
Exactly, and he always says, and this is the one thing I'll give him. He always says, "I'm just here to bring you in," but then after that, find a nice Bible-based church and further your.
Yeah,
whatever.
I see.
But at the same time, he's flying around in a fucking helicopter,
jets and shit. Yeah.
Now, I will defend him slightly. Just so that everybody listening has facts about what Joel Osteen and where he gets his money from. All of his money, his house, his cars, everything is paid for by his book sales. He does not take a salary from Lakewood Church.
Okay. Well,
just letting you know, so that everybody has a clear picture in their mind of where he gets his money. He does not take a salary, a bonus, or any money from Lakewood Church.
Okay. Where does he get his
Where are his books sold?
Why? Yeah, where are his books sold?
No.
Why do people watch him?
But again,
why do people know his name?
But again, I'm going to defend the same theory I've been defending this whole time. Nobody's forcing anybody to buy books.
Well, it's also practice what you preach. It's love thy neighbor.
You're right.
Not open the fucking.
You're right. Not opening up Lakewood and
church.
Yeah, that's fucked
when
up.
Mattress Mac fucking.
Oh, Mattress Mac's a beast, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Let's see who.
Wait,
hold on.
Yeah, maybe we can get a Gallery Furniture sponsorship.
Gallery Furniture is a bomb.
But
that's a Gallery Furniture couch in here.
Hold on. I want to get back to the point when you were trying to equivalate the Gospels. So this is what I was going to say, because, and don't get me wrong, I don't believe what I'm about to say, but I can say it because it's just an argument.
I don't believe it either.
So sell your house, buy, do what you got to do to get to where you need to be in Scientology. All right. Where do you think he got that idea from? Think about this. And this is Christianity. There's a teaching, and I've had way too much Eureka Heights, and I can't quote it, and I'm sorry. But
you haven't had too many to forget that name, though. I'm okay with that.
The parable of the young rich man. In one of the Gospels, there's the young rich ruler comes up to Jesus, and he goes, "I believe in you. I think everything you do is right. What do I need to do to basically? What do I need to do for eternal salvation?" And he says, "Take everything you own, sell it, and follow me." And he put his head down, walked away because he was rich and he didn't do it. What's the difference? And I'm just saying this as a point of contention. I'm not saying this is like I believe it. I just want to say that again. What's the difference of somebody mortgaging their house, doing what they have to do to take that $400,000 test? If they really believe that their eternal salvation,
that's what I'm saying. But honestly,
he's doing is taking old ideas and monetizing them and making them business.
Is this any different than basically like sharecropping? You know what I mean? Like you basically bled these people dry.
You're an indentured servant,
and then you're charging them so much money just to survive, and they can't ever dig their way out of this hole. Once they can
dig their way out of the hole if they believe that their
immortal soul. Let's talk about their Thetan.
They're Thetan.
That's how they. But
it's going to make it to level 8.
Okay, well that's whatever their Thetan is. I'm talking about their physical. Let's say they decide they want to leave the church. Is this any different than, basically forcing people into indentured servitude? You basically have taken all of their money, and then you're forcing them to work in basically internment camps because that's all they know. You know what I mean?
Are you forcing them,
but also,
or are they?
At that point, it's volunteer.
But
they're so brainwashed and manipulated.
I agree.
So at what point do you draw the line and take away somebody's free choice?
They feel it's justified.
To be brainwashed.
At that point, what they're doing when they get punished, it feels like I'm doing this because I've been bad, and lack of better words, repent, and I'll get better.
You don't say bad unless you mean bad.
Bad. Fuck you.
Okay, but no.
And my
shoe. I hate you so much.
I want you to.
Yeah, that's where.
I think there was a point that was missed there, and I'd love for you to say it again. Do you remember what you said?
No.
I hate you so much.
No.
What we're talking about?
No. He said was, at what point is it right for someone to step in to steal somebody?
I disagree with the government stepping in and basically telling you, hey, you're not allowed to make your free choice
to
right
be
now.
brainwashed.
So
I agree with that.
So if I want to be Scientologist, fuck, you better fucking let me be a Scientologist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same way. It's the same way I believe about being a Christian.
Yeah,
that is not your right to take away from me. Yeah. If I want to be really dumb, as far as you think, and be a Scientologist, people believe that I'm just as dumb being a Christian.
No, and it's true.
It's the same.
You're right.
Exact,
it's a two-way street.
It's the same exact.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not one to. I don't discredit. So there are religions I disagree that are right. If you want to be that religion, I 100% support you, and I think that that's more of the liberal side of Christian that I've talked about earlier. It's more acceptance. I think that what I'm doing is right, or I wouldn't be doing it. And do I think it's right for you? Yes, I do. Am I going to say that you're wrong because you grew up the exact same way I did, but with a different God? Look, I'll tell you what I believe. I want to hear what you believe.
Exactly.
and let's have a conversation.
We're on the same page.
Let's have a conversation about it. And look, I don't expect to change your mind. Don't expect probably to change mine, but I love having those conversations.
Exactly.
I honestly,
I
don't think that the government should be able to step in and say
exactly
what you're doing. But
we should be able to talk about it and enlighten people.
I think that. But that's our freedom. That's our freedom of speech as citizens.
Freedom of religion.
We recognize what the perils of being involved in Scientology are, and we can sit here and say that it's fucking stupid. Yeah, it's just that's my right.
Amen, brother. That's fucking stupid.
But what's
you know what I mean? Like you're okay to say that.
Should we do it?
Fucking Ric Flair show.
What's really mind-boggling is the fact that we're saying, of course, from our perspective and our observations, it's fucking stupid. It's crazy. Why would you do it? But the people that are doing it, like you were saying, Brian, like they believe in it so much, and like to us, like I'm not getting paid. I'm not getting paid shit. Or I'm getting I'm working all these hours, but to them, they have the mindset that it's the right thing to do.
They have that faith. They have faith in it.
Yeah.
That they believe that they are right.
They're gonna pay their way to get clear and whatnot. Like their work, But to have that mindset though is mind-boggling.
Well, I mean, y'all watched that Going Clear, right?
Yeah,
I mean, those people would fight each other.
Yes, the chairs.
The chair
the
thing.
musical chairs.
They would
they were fighting to
beat
stay.
the shit out of each other
to stay in
that fucked up.
And what gets me is that, you know, all of these people that are on that documentary were all super high levels of Scientology, and they left.
Yeah.
Well, like we pointed out at the beginning, they get you with the self-help, which honestly, if you just look at it for what it is, they're not preaching anything you haven't heard before. It's not crazy.
Yeah. And Ron Miscavige even says, he's like, I believe in Scientology at its core. Yeah. At what Dianetics is. Yeah. He's like,
at its core.
Whether you believe however you believe what it does, the whether it's a pseudoscience or whatever, it's basically a hodgepodge of, you know, different
religions and psychology.
Well, I mean, the Dianetics in and of itself, I mean, is basically just psychology against yourself with somebody that you don't know. I mean, it's somebody you don't know asking you questions that you wouldn't have thought to ask about yourself, and that's all it is psychotherapy.
Yeah.
At its core, the Dianetics works as a therapy session.
Yeah, it's just self-help.
It's when you add in all this other bullshit.
When you throw in Xenu.
When you throw... Yeah. I mean...
That's why that shit doesn't come in till level 4. At that point, you've already emotionally and monetarily invested so much.
Yeah, I guess we'll go with this shit.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
That's
genius.
All right.
Fine. And that's what Leah Remini says. She was like,
brainwashing.
She was like, you know, my mom was at my thing, and she's like, she was there when I opened this briefcase.
She wanted to see her reaction.
She was like, she goes, I asked my mom later, and she was like, I didn't believe any of that shit, but who am I going to tell?
Yeah, because they can't. That's the fucked up thing about it. You can't talk about it with other members at all. You have to keep...
Well, she said
that's how
at the time it was a point of pride.
Well, that's how isolated they have it, like to the point where their system,
I think
how
at
it works
the time,
to its advantage.
At the time, Leah said that her parents, like, that's a point of pride.
Yeah, you want your child
child to get to that point to where they are, you know, knowledgeable about everything. So it's like she was there. She was a level 8. She's top dog. Yeah. And she was proud of her daughter at that point. So, you know, what she knew at the time, I hadn't heard that.
I mean, it's one of those things that's like, I mean, what do you do? You're a parent. Your kid's going up. It's you can almost equivalent it to like you being a Catholic from birth, and then, you know, you raising your child and then taking their vows as a priest. You know what I mean? And you're like,
oh,
this is exactly.
I didn't think you were going to take it that far.
Yeah, I mean, well, no, you hope that. I mean, I mean, I'm not a Catholic, but I assume that's where you would want it to go. I mean, but I mean, that's what I'm saying.
You see a lot of generational preachers as well.
Yeah, of course.
Which I don't understand how that works.
Pastors' kids.
Because well, I mean. Generation, not in the Catholic Church.
Rare,
I mean, you might see him in the Catholic Church coming up pretty soon, but I mean, you wouldn't know about it.
I don't know.
Oh.
Well, last time I checked, you can't have kids that way.
That's a rape joke. I missed out on that.
You did.
It was.
Hold on, I missed this. No. No, that deserved this one.
Yeah, there it is.
I was just saying, never mind, forget it.
I get what you're saying. You should have. It was a bad joke.
Yeah, you should have kept.
No, it's just
whatever.
Not a bad joke. It just seems like, wow, that's dark, or I don't know. That seems
it was
fitting.
pretty dark.
It seems fitting for that.
You know, my favorite stories is as I sat at a drum set on stage.
Who told you that?
Paul's done.
Someone made a joke. And I made a rim shot sound with my mouth.
And you were at a drum set?
You're in front of a drum set?
Literally sitting at a drum set.
With sticks in your hand?
With sticks in my hand. I'm a drummer.
Yes!
That's like me.
I was playing a drummer at the time. I was sitting at the drum set. I was expected to play.
It's like me hitting some...
and basically said, yeah. And I got called out on it. Yeah.
Rightfully so.
No, rightfulully so.
It's like me hitting somebody, and every time I strike, I'm going to make a punching noise, but I miss them. I still make the punching noise.
Batman style.
I miss you.
what that reminds me of?
Hey, don't talk shit. That's wrestling, bro.
What?
So that reminds me of when they were filming episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Ewan McGregor could not stop making lightsaber sounds with his mouth as they were filming the fighting
put that
scene.
on right now.
Yeah.
How could you not?
He wanted to do, or
He
just
said that
couldn't
in
help
interview.
it.
Yeah, he was
He
just
couldn't
like
help it?
They were like, no,
Yeah, he couldn't
we'll
help it. He
add
was
that
like,
in
whoa.
later. Yeah, while he's
They CGI his mouth so it looked like he was doing that, or what?
No,
I didn't notice
no,
that.
they edited
had to
those
make
out.
him-
Yeah, they had to make him stop.
I'm sure they were like, dude, we'll edit that in later.
If they CGI'd his mouth, that probably wasn't as bad as the Henry Cavill mustache edit, from the Justice League.
Yes.
Mustache edit.
You don't know that?
No.
When they did the reshoots after Zack Snyder was fired, they brought in all the actors to do reshoots for Justice League. Well, Henry Cavill was filming Mission Impossible, and he had that mustache for Mission Impossible.
Better hide that shit.
So they had to edit it. He couldn't shave it because he was under contract for the Mission Impossible movie. He couldn't shave it. So they had to edit it out.
That's hilarious.
God,
Go watch Justice League. You can totally tell
every
it's
damn
terrible.
scene.
fucking cheap.
Oh,
fucking
God.
see streaks of it.
So now,
Fucking cheap shit.
so now, oh man, I should have brought this up. I wish Jacob was here. We should have brought this up. So HBO announced that they're going to release the Snyder
mustache
cut.
version?
No, the Snyder
mustache
cut.
version?
Yeah. So they're going to release.
Fuck it.
They're going to release because Zack Snyder finished the movie basically. So HBO's going to release the Snyder cut, the original edit of Justice League.
Wow.
Either as a series or a whole movie or whatever. I don't know, but they're going to release it.
That's fucking interesting. I'll check that out.
Yeah, I'll
Nice.
check that out too. I want to see what it was like before the fucking.
Dude, that's like the fucking well, not on the same level, but the Back to the Future bullshit. You know
What
that
about it?
Michael J. Fox wasn't the original guy.
Oh, yeah, it was Eric Stoltz,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
they did the whole fucking movie.
The whole movie?
No,
I
they
thought it
didn't
was
do a
like
whole
they
movie.
did.
They
I
did.
thought they did like
parts-
damn
there's
near
just-
the
there's
whole
scenes.
movie.
No, they shot a trailer
No.
basically.
Oh,
Yeah.
I could have swore that was
No.
like the whole fucking movie.
Yeah.
No, it was
Well,
only
what do I
Then he
know?
also
they only
got
did some test shots.
the original. What's it called too? Jennifer is that's
yeah,
not
they
the same
changed
one
her
that
out.
Elizabeth Shue did 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Is it
should
Elizabeth
have
Shue?
kept
Yeah,
her.
part
She
2
was
and 3.
hot.
Yeah,
Oh, she's so hot.
But the original,
Adventures in Babysitting.
the original Jennifer too.
Dude,
Like I
every
forgot her
movie.
name.
The
She's
Saint.
fucking beautiful too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man, she's hot. Yeah,
We should
We
do
are
it.
way off. How the fuck did we get on Elizabeth Shue?
I don't know.
Because she's
Brian
hot
stepped
and it
off
happens?
and shoes and Tarantino feet.
All right.
Fuck, I don't know.
All right. We'll do Jerry Springer's final thoughts.
Yeah, how far in were we? What are we at?
We're pushing time limit.
Okay.
Wow, time flies.
Yeah, time
right.
flies when you're having
Final
fun.
thought.
Eddie, final thoughts on Scientology, religion or cult?
Neither. It's a business.
Okay.
It started off as a sci-fi, and they made money off of it, and they kept it going.
This is basically like Star Wars becoming a fucking religion.
Exactly.
you could say
Pretty much the
that.
same thing. It started off as a sci-fi. People got into it. They realized they can make money off of it. They kept it going,
Yeah.
and it's been perfected now to a point where they can continue to make money off of
Do
it.
you think that it will keep going past this? Since most members that have
think they're
exited are saying that they are not intaking
No.
new members
And I'll
because
tell-
of the
Yeah.
internet.
Exactly, and I'm glad you brought that up. I think Scientology will die because of the internet.
I think David.
I think
Miscavige
the
should be
access
last
of
leader.
knowledge nowadays, people will not get into anything unless they can read the reviews and see what everything and everybody has to say about it. And no one's going to join some secret religion unless they know everything about it. The awe and like mystery of Scientology that grabbed
passed.
people in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, this new generation ain't going to fall for that bullshit.
Okay, fair enough. Paul, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think L. Ron Hubbard actually was living one of his fucking sci-fi fucking stories. I really do. It's his later years, he was often recommended to see a psychologist, and I think him writing Dianetics and all that stuff was him processing to, or just some kind of outlet for his depression or whatever, his sanity.
You think he was self-medicating, trying to self-diagnose himself?
Yeah. You could say that, and but it just also it was just a healthy output for him.
Healthy?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like how fucked up his
It
head
helped his
was.
crazy
It
ass.
helped
Okay,
him.
whatever.
It got him to
do you,
do like whatever it is, like it got him to fucking just it gave him a purpose. As fucked up as it was, but I really do think he was just living one of his fucking one of his stories. That's how I look at it. It's just, and I do think Ron Miscavige, or not Ron, Dave Miscavige. I'm keep fucking it all up. Miscavige.
That's my fault. I keep saying
he will die with the just pretty much the when Scientology. I mean, like I think when he goes with Scientology,
with him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that's it. Like,
he died a long time ago.
I hope he's fucking still.
His Thetan keeps going.
That fucker's like in his early 60s. Man,
they're immortal. Remember, the Thetan keeps.
I'm talking
moving.
about not L, but L. Ron Hubbard.
No, Miscavige también.
But the one that's around now, like I think when he goes, the religion will go with him, and people. That's it. People will be free.
What do you think they'll do with the $15 billion that are sitting around? You think they should split that between the active Scientology members?
They're probably going to do that. I wouldn't doubt it.
That goes straight
so
to.
Should I become a Scientology member now?
I know, right?
So that I get a share of that.
Yeah,
that's going straight. That's going straight to Xenu.
I don't know. It's pretty crazy. Yes, Xenu. Fuck.
Brian, what are your thoughts on this?
So I think wrapping it up, Eddie had a great point. I think it's split between religion, cult, and business. So your higher ups that are in Scientology right now look at that as a business 100%. They're trying to spread it. They're trying to gain profits, etc. The people that are joining, the people that are in it, think of it and look of it as a religion, and they believe in it as the way I believe in Christianity. So it also, to me, is a cult. So I think it is what it is to each person. So it's something different to everybody. So it's not black and white. It is one thing. It's not necessarily this is crazy, this is nuts. It is, it's a business, it's a religion to some, it's a cult to a lot of people. So it's all in between there.
Yeah. My thoughts my final kind of thoughts on the subject. I think that it was like Paul said. I kind of am on the same page as Paul. Like it was one guy who, like you said, he wrote 1,000 works of fiction, and this is the one truth. No, it was a way for this guy to not have to work and just bullshit his way through life, and this is what happened. And unfortunately, a lot of people are paying the price for his transgressions and his lies, and they just keep carrying on. But I mean, playing the devil's advocate here a little bit, I mean, how many like other cult leaders, minor religion, even major religions, if you want to take it that far, have done the same thing in over time. So one of those things that, while in my personal opinion, I don't think the Church of Scientology deserves any respect. I think that there is a certain place in our in our culture for them. So I agree that I don't think that they're going to survive Dave Miscavige dying or leaving. They're not taking in any new members, and they're shedding members at a rate, from the 20 years ago they were. Was it 20 years ago? Was it,
what?
30 years ago?
What?
Fuck, we're old. 30 years ago they were at almost 100,000. Now they're at 10,000. So I mean, you're talking, maybe in another 10 years the Church of Scientology won't be a thing. I don't know. So wrapping it up, I just want to say thanks to Eddie and Brian for joining us tonight. Brian,
yes, sir. Thanks, guys.
Why don't you plug your Instagram and Facebook page for your woodworking stuff? Because we're going to put up some pictures and stuff once we get the new podcast table built and put in. I'll put up some progress pics and stuff.
I'm working on the podcast table right now. I've got the top nearly done and a riser. So they're going to share some pictures, of course. If you want to see me on Instagram, it's KTX_Woodworks. On Facebook, it's KTX space Woodworks, 2 words there. Come check me out. I'm not super active, trying to get better at it, but come check it out. What works I've done, and if you want anything.
Brian's done a lot of really cool shit. He built like a classic NES console coffee table that was really fucking cool.
Yeah.
Didn't the guy that one your idea originally to like put like a Raspberry Pi in there where you could like actually plug controllers into the coffee table?
I thought about that. So I took that one step further. I made just like a little arcade, bar top arcade.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I made a bar top arcade that'll operate basically any NES game. That would have been really cool to like incorporate, but just need the right customer to do it. You know?
Yeah. If you're listening and you want some cool like custom woodworking stuff, go check out KTX Woodworks. Hit up Brian. Like he can handle cool stuff like that. He does really great work. He's made multiple bars for our friends because we're all heavy drinkers. So
if you wouldn't lose them in hurricanes and stuff, whatever.
I did lose a really nice bar that Brian made me in Hurricane Harvey, which really sucks. So thank you guys both for fucking coming out and drinking all our beer.
Sir. Thank you, Eddie.
We really
Brian,
appreciate that.
Thanks, Eureka Heights.
Anytime.
Eddie Brian, fucking Tekken character.
Anytime. Seriously. This was a lot of fun, guys. Anytime.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Good conversation, man.
And on that note, I've been Rob.
You have been
Eddie.
Oh,
Eddie.
sorry. I was waiting. You didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot.
This is bullshit.
I did a visual cue.
Point
you said no cues.
We'll do this again.
Son of a bitch.
And on that note, I've been Rob.
I'm Eddie.
I'm fucking Paul. God damn it.
I'm Brian.
We have been Gentlemen No Class. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll catch you on the next one.